This is a true story. I'll give you the facts, and you can decide for yourself if this was a bona fide paranormal experience. One hot August night, a little over a decade ago, I was hanging out with my girlfriend Jenna, her friend Bobby, Bobby's boyfriend Steve, and Bobby's 9-year-old cousin, Tammy. Bobby was babysitting at her aunt's house for the weekend. We lived in a small Ontario beach town, right in the cottage country. Deep in the boonies, way outside of town, there was a haunted farmhouse. You know the kind, stone foundation, huge front porch, dilapidated barn in the back. The house and its barn have been on that spot since the early 1800s, ancient by Canadian standards. For reasons I no longer care to recall, the 5 of us piled into my shitty car and went for a late-night adventure to the abandoned house. It was extremely dark. The moon and stars were obscured by clouds, and there was no need for street lamps on this country road. We had no business being there after dark. We didn't bring much with us, just a couple of joints, a few lighters, and a cell phone. One of those old Nokia flip phones. I parked at the end of the driveway, about 200 meters from the front door. The rest of the driveway was blocked off by a heavy chain, and we blazed up before heading into the house. Holding hands and using Bobby's cell phone as a flashlight, we walked single file through the house. Jenna was on point, followed by me, Tammy, Bobby, and Steve. We walked through the pitch-black foyer into the kitchen. Carefully we turned right, past the stairs to the upper level and into the living room, where we were stopped by a huge hole in the floor. Holding the light up to the ceiling, I voiced my opinion that the floor around the bathtub must have rotted away, sending the tub crashing into the basement. We stood for a while, at the edge of the hole, the 4 of us, peering into the unfathomable darkness. The air reeked of dust and mold and rot. We turned to leave, me first, holding the phone in one hand, Jenna's hand in the other, and then Bobby and Tammy behind us. We round the corner through the kitchen when suddenly I freeze. There's something standing in the doorway. As the 3 girls bump into me, Jenna asks why I stopped. Before I could answer, the figure roars and rushes towards us. Now, my fight or flight instincts is usually set to run like hell, but I was young. It was dark and I had to protect my girl, you know. So I tackle the guy to the ground, and as I hold the phone up to his face, I hear Bobby exclaim,
"What the fuck, Steve? You asshole?"
I guess he had broken away from the group and held back waiting for a good time to scare us. I didn't really have time to process that through because behind us we heard a terrified scream. In the terror and confusion, Tammy had damn near backed herself into the giant hole.
"Guys, help! I'm slipping."
No time for the flashlight, phone. The 4 of us grouped in the darkness until we grabbed her arms. She was armpit deep in the hole, legs just dangling in the pit.
"Oh my god, something just touched my leg."
1, 2, 3, pull.
I shouted as we yanked Tammy to freedom. We immediately booked it for the front door and back to my car. We stood there, panting and pale and shaking, except Steve, who was laughing.
"We glared.
What?
I got you fuckers good,"
He chuckled.
Oh, really?
he said.
Then you won't mind going back into that house alone.
"I dropped the phone when I took your punk ass down."
He scowled.
"Fine, it's no big deal, pussies."
He started walking to the house.
"Hey, wait up."
Bobby called out as she jogged to catch up to him. Jenna and I exchanged glances. We knew that wouldn't last much longer. Neither did we, though, to be honest. When we finally piled back into my car, Steve spoke.
Sorry I made you guys drop the phone,
he said.
It was so weird. When I got the phone, it was still open.
That's not so weird.
I said, rolling my eyes.
We were using it to see.
Taken aback by my rudeness, Steve shot back.
Yeah, I know. What was weird is that the phone was calling Tammy's house.
Whatever, Steve.
Jenna quipped.
No, really.
Bobby chimed in.
The call went to voicemail. We can prove it when we get back.
Sure enough, when we got home, the red light on the answering machine was blinking. Bobby hit play. There was a burst of static, a sound like metal grinding metal. Then an angry voice whisper shouted at us, and
Don't come back.
As the voice stopped, we could hear footsteps followed by Bobby calling out to Steve.
Hey, wait up.
We deleted that message immediately and never went back.
I don't know what the fuck that was. I never believed in creatures or monsters lurking around at night. After this, I'm not so sure anymore. I worked late shifts at a gas station, and I always ended up walking home because it was only a 15-minute walk. My workplace was really in the middle of nowhere, with just trees in every direction. The only reason I'm doing this job was because my parents were strict and never gave me money for any reason. We were kinda poor, so I took the initiative of getting my own job. We didn't live in a city or town full of skyscrapers, but instead we lived in a quiet and reserved rural area. Anyways, it was a nice and quiet night like any other. I locked up the doors and left the gas station. I could hear the birds and crickets chirping. It was around 4 a.m. that night, and I loved it. Then all of a sudden it stopped. The chirping, the breeze, even the moonlight was blocked out by the tall trees. I felt sick on the inside. Something told me that I should just stop and turn around. But I was already halfway home. There's no point in going back to the gas station, so I kept walking. It was quiet, a bit too quiet. My legs started shaking and I trembled. I don't know what had taken over me, but all of a sudden I heard the rustling. I swear I felt like I was being watched. I stopped and stared directly at where I heard it. Nothing. So I ignored it and kept walking. Again, out of nowhere, rustling. I quickly jerked my head back and looked at that direction. Two bright green bulbs stared back at me. It had an oval-shaped head. It had no hair, and it just stood there behind the bushes, staring at me. All of a sudden, I felt dizzy. My legs felt numb and arms felt heavy. I couldn't move. I felt so nauseous and I woke back in the gas station. My body felt like it was on fire, and my boss had told me that he had found me lying in the middle of the road. When he picked me up, he noticed my body was freezing, and my entire body was shedding. I don't know what he meant by that, but he told me that skin cells were constantly falling off, and I left an imprint of dead skin cells on the road. He asked me what happened, and I told him that I don't remember. Just a green figure, and how I felt numb. He asked me if I felt okay, and I just replied to him that my body was on fire, so he checked my forehead to see if I had a fever. But he quickly took his hands back, saying that I'm cold as ice. I took 3 days off since that incident, but I still work there as of now. We never spoke about it, and he told me to get a doctor to check me out, but I never did.